Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 747 for the 11th of March. And we're going to start out with the frontline changes report, and the first one is going to be at Bohdanivka. So over at Bohdanivka, there is some frontline change. It's just some slight correction of based on the Ukrainian mapping that the Russians have actually some forests around here. So this is actually invalidation of previous invalidation. So anyway, there's a small change. The front line continues to be pretty much the same over in this Bohdanivka region in the Bakhmut Front. So this is Bakhmut city. So this is over here. And we move on to major news over in the Avdiivka Front. So this Avdiivka city, and at the southern part of the Avdiivka Front over at Nevelske, the Russian Defense Ministry have announced that they have captured Nevelske. So this actually added a Russian claim around here. This is not yet acknowledged by the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainians actually acknowledge, based on Ukrainian mapping, that the Russians have taken this area here. So yeah, so the actual if you believe both sides, then the Russians have captured these areas here, and perhaps even taken the entire of Nevelske. So this is the update, the frontline change over in the Nevelske region in the southern part of this Avdiivka Front. And moving on away from this area, another frontline change is over at Heorhiivka, just southwest of it, or over in the Donetsk Front. In the Heorhiivka region, the Russian forces have launched an attack in the northern part of Heorhiivka, and these are geolocated, and these are pretty much confirmed Russian presence, that they have actually taken some grounds in this northern part of Heorhiivka. And given the fact that the Ukrainian forces have taken pretty strong lines within the settlement itself, it seems like the Russians are going from the north and trying to bypass the village. So that's all over in the Heorhiivka region, and the next frontline change is just south of it over at Pobjeda. So there is the geolocation of a tank of the Russian side being geolocated at this location. This actually invalidated Ukrainian claims. Previously, the Ukrainians have not acknowledged this. Only the Russians have previously, based on Russian mapping, they have claimed this northern area here of Pobjeda. And this time around with this geolocation, we can confirm that the Russians have indeed taken this area here, invalidating Ukrainian claims. And so this is just southwest of Marinka, in case you are not familiar. And so the next frontline change is just south of this over at Novomykhailivka. So this Novomykhailivka, where the battle of Novomykhailivka is currently ongoing in the Donetsk Front, and there is some various frontline change, and these are all coming from geolocations. Over in the northeastern part of Novomykhailivka, with Russian forces geolocated in these two regions. This one particularly is just an assault. This is an attack by the Russian forces, so this one is just a poke over here. This is just a poke. But this one over here is actually a FPV drone attack by the Ukrainians against Russian forces in the forward positions around this building over here. So which means that the Russian forces have actually confirmed to be around here, and this also invalidated Ukrainian claims that this may still be under Ukrainian control. So this is now confirmed to be under Russian control. The Russians are pushing in the north of Novomykhailivka. Very similar situation with the Heorhiivka we just mentioned, with the Russian forces trying to go around the settlement from the north. So these are the frontline changes report. So we're going to go into the strategic and tactical reporting, and first thing first is the major news. The Ukrainians have launched the Belgorod offensive. So this is actually a very interesting offensive. So we just talk about the facts first. Russian Defense Ministry have announced that the Ukrainian forces have tried to attack into the Belgorod and Kherson region. So Ukrainian forces are attacking in multiple locations. So there is this over Tekino into the Kherson region, and then there is also other advances. Over here is this is at Spadoroshino, Velika Pesarivka, Obnorobivka, as well as Nekotivka. So the Ukrainian forces are attacking in multiple directions, all towards Belgorod direction. And so these are the attacks. And so given how this react, this seems to be the main diversion. This is the main attack. Whereas there is a push towards Belgorod, and then there's another trying to sneak in Ukrainian sabotage forces, commandos or special forces into the region in Kherson, while the Russians are reacting to this action over in this Kreminna region. So, but then this push towards Belgorod is, I believe, is the main intention. So the situation over here is interesting because Velika Pesarivka, this area here towards Kreminna is something that the Ukrainians have done before. The Ukrainians have actually attacked into this area before previously. So they are trying to test the Russian forces again, or maybe trying to dupe the Russian forces in this way. So they are pushing in this way, and then there's another attack around Pobjeda region, and another one coming over here from the south. And this seems to be the main attack. So far, this attack is all repelled at this moment, but the attack is still ongoing. Well, there is the main push from Kozacha Lopan moving up the highway. I believe this is actually the main push. This one goes straight all the way to Belgorod, and I believe this is actually the real intention. The most interesting thing I would say is that this is actually a plan that I told many of you guys, if you have been following DPA for some while. I have already said the best course of action for a Ukrainian counter-offensive or major offensive is towards Belgorod, is to capture Belgorod. And that was before the Ukrainians launched their infamous counter-offensive to hit the wall and got destroyed. Had they used all 12 brigades and go all towards Belgorod, all 12 brigades towards Belgorod, they could capture it. 100% they will capture it. But now, I feel that this comes a bit late. So, So, anyway, I'm going to talk more about this and maybe the conclusions and whatnot. So, by the way, this comes a bit late, and where they already lost so much of the aircraft, so much of the tanks, and the Russians have actually increased production in terms of armored artillery, and also they have air superiority. They have the fat bombs, the glide bombs. They have superior everything. That's the problem now. And so this, I'm not going to have a very bullish expectation for this Belgorod offensive. I think it's going to fail very badly because they have lost that window of opportunity. So, and the Russians have also conducted major multiple attacks through airstrikes and artillery strikes in multiple locations to attack any Ukrainian forces that they have detected in these few locations. So this one is very near to the Velika Pesarivka, where the Ukrainian forces launched an attack, and there's multiple ones further away, near Voschansk, near Velika Bulok, as well as another one just opposite Berezovka, and then, which means there could be another force over in this area here with a reserve force at the rear, and then maybe another diversionary in this area here. Because when the Ukrainians are attacked in this direction, I believe that when the Russian forces are not engaging in this one, the Ukrainian forces then launch another attack coming from the Voschansk region, and with a diversion coming into Berezovka, and then the reserve force can actually go towards Voschansk to support the offensive into Belgorod. I believe this is what we're seeing. And the ones over here in towards Kreminna, I think this is actually a major diversion. This is going to draw Russian attention into this area here, because the Ukrainians have already attacked this area once before. So I believe they are just trying to dupe the Russians into believing that the Ukrainians are so dumb to try to go into this area here again. So main objective is Belgorod. That's what I think. So I already talked too much, so this is going to be his own video, definitely. So but this is important because this is a very major operation. This is the start of a Belgorod offensive. Very interesting. And Tekhino is definitely just an attempt to use the chaos that's currently happening over towards the Belgorod region to sneak forces into the enemy's rear in the Kursk region. So very, very interesting operation by the Ukrainian armed forces. So anyway, that's all for the Belgorod Front. I'm going to start to call this the Belgorod Front until further notice. And we move on, since we are already here. Let's go into the Kharkiv Front. So at the Kharkiv Front, the situation over here went a lot more quieter. There is a geolocation of Russian helicopter strike against Khyslivka, but it confirms that our front line have not changed. Ukrainians have full control over Khyslivka, and the Ukrainian forces was reportedly attacking Sinkivka. So that's all from the Kupyansk Front. We move further south. So there's nothing over the SITREP Front. We move into the Kreminna Front. So this is Kreminna city. At the Kreminna Front, the Russian forces are attacking Kerny. So there's not much new information except that the Ryba have actually discovered the geolocations, and then they are getting excited about Russian taking more grounds over towards Terny. So that's all for Kreminna. We move on further south over at the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, the Russian forces are still on the Siversk offensive, with fighting reported at Heorhiivka, Bohdanivka, towards Perny, as well as towards Bohdanivka. So there is geolocation of some counter-artillery action over at the Zaporizhzhia region. So basically, this is a strategic situation over at Siversk. We move on over to the Bakhmut Front. In the northern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces are still in the battle of Ivanivske. As I mentioned before, I don't think the Russians are keen to take Ivanivske just yet. I don't think so. Not yet. Not the right time. And there is Ukrainian forces getting airstrike by the Russian forces northwest of Ivanivske. Russian forces are now pushing east of Chasivia, as well as there's an attack being reported towards Heorhiivka. All these attacks are being reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, so we will continue to monitor and see what is this going to turn out to be. So anyway, that's all from the northern front of the Bakhmut Front. In the southern flank, the southern flank remains the usual. Russian forces attacking Klishevka, Avdiivka, and Kudyumivka. All these attack, but no frontline changes. So take these attacks reports to be very positional, very static. So that's all from the Bakhmut Front. We move into the Niu-York Front. At the Niu-York Front, in the northern flank of the Niu-York Front, the fighting continues over with the Russians attacking Mayos, Ukrainians attacking from Pivnishny, as well as an attack from Pivdeny. So this is a strategic situation. This is Donetsk, this is New York, and this big city over here, this is Heorhiivka. So that's all from the Niu-York Front. We move into the Avdiivka Front. So at the Avdiivka Front, the Russian forces are getting held back very firmly by the Ukrainian forces over this Avdiivka Front, particularly over at Bedaichi, over at Heorhiivka and Tonenke. This situation, this reality is acknowledged by Ryba. So the Ukrainians are also pushing at Novomykhailivka, by the way. So the Russian forces are reportedly attacking at Heorhiivka, this is Bedaichi, Heorhiivka, and Tonenke. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Russian forces also seems to be starting a new direction, hitting towards Keramik, as well as continuing their usual over at Pervomaiske and their success over at Nevelske. So Ryba actually acknowledged that the Russian forces are now unable to break the line. The Ukrainian forces have actually managed to create a more stable line of defense along these three villages, basically corroborating what I have told you a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, where so many people got triggered. This is the reality right now, So even the Ukrainians cannot believe they are holding these grounds, according to some Ukrainian commentators. So, but this is the reality. So, don't cope. And over at the Nevelske region, particularly, the Russian Defense Ministry has announced that they have captured Nevelske, and but the mappings have not caught up. So this figure 8 that I've drawn over here, this is just my own estimate. for now, because they say that they captured, so I can only draw it in this way. The only firm line that was confirmed by the Ukrainian mapping that the Russians have captured is this line. This is the line that the Russian forces have managed to capture more grounds area here. So this also signifies the Russians have actually expanded control over the Nevelske region, and there's a high chance that they have actually taken in this way around the Nevelske region. So I doubt this is going to trigger some kind of rout or something, because there is still a lot of tree lines that the Ukrainians can actually conduct a lot of defensive operation. So Nevelske, I believe, it will just become a major defensive outpost for the Russian forces around this area here to protect the southern flank of the Russian push towards in the area of Pervomysky. So that's all over in this Avdiivka front. We move into the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, the Russian forces continue to launch attack across the front line, with fighting reported at Krasnohorivka, Heorhiivka, Pobjeda, Novomykhailivka, towards Vodian, at Voleda, south of Voleda. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Shevchenko, Russians attacking at Staromayorsky. This push at Staromayorsky seems to be a little bit serious, with the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned about it. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry also mentioned about it. But I don't think this is still major assault, but it seems a bit serious that the Russians and the Ukrainians are both talking about it. And Ukrainians counterattack at Shevchenko. This is probably trying to recapture lost ground. And this push over in the Voleda region is very interesting, because according to Ryba, they say that based on their mapping, the Russians are attacking in the south of Voleda, so probably coming from the Mikhailivka region. And this attack towards Vodian continued to be reported, but we have no mappings to confirm where the fighting actually is happening. And over at the Novomykhailivka region, as per the Frontline Changes report, the Russian forces are attacking in the northeastern part of Novomykhailivka, and we can confirm that the Russian forces are having this industrial area here in the north. So this building over here, the Russian forces are geolocated in this area here, and with the Russian pushing over here, but then they were thwarted. The attack wasn't very successful, which means Ukrainians have this tree line for sure. Or at least this tree line. But I think this entire tree line is actually Ukrainians. So the Russians got smashed in this area here. So the Russians are definitely trying to push in this direction in the north, bypassing the more difficult line going through the settlement. So this is the Battle of Novomykhailivka currently unfolding. The push to cut off the Ukrainians in the western part seems to worked out. So did not happen over this predicted battles. So that's all from the Novomykhailivka. So I covered this in the corroboration by geolocation of the Russian mapping. And then, of course, we come to Heorhiivka with the Russian forces trying to push from the north and to probably flank to the south, to the rear end of Heorhiivka. So that's all for the Donetsk front. And over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, so this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. At the Zaporizhzhia Front, the Russian forces are attacking Zhevone in the Huaypole sector, northwest of Robove. In Robotine, Ukrainians are attacking at Robotine. Russians attack Lukhove as well as Kayamske. So this is a strategic situation in this area here. The main Ukrainian counterattack is over at Robotine. This is actually reported by the Russian Defense Ministry as well. They acknowledge the Ukrainian attack. So, but the entire offensive in this area here seems to be very bogged down. So that's all from the Zaporizhzhia Front. And over in the Kherson Front, at the Kherson Front, there is some fighting reported along the bridgeheads. It's not sure which town. As usual, I got to put it at Krinky. And there is just one geolocation in the northern bank of a Lancet strike on the Ukrainian tank just south of Tamarine. And that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 747 for the 11th of March. And do press the like button, subscribe if you have not press the like button and subscribe. You must subscribe to support the channel, to grow the channels, and also some conclusions. So the first thing first, of course, is the Belgorod offensive. As I mentioned in the SITREP, the window of opportunity to actually do a Belgorod offensive is actually over. The real time to do the Belgorod offensive, to capture Belgorod and bring the battle into Russia, was actually in the last year's counteroffensive. So the Ukrainians have wasted all the forces, the trained troops, the equipments, and the situation where the Russians were weaker because they did not have the fat bombs during those days. They haven't bought any ammunition from North Korea or Iran, and and they were still trying to ramp up production. So that was probably the best time for the Ukrainians to actually storm with 12 brigades into Belgorod, create a defensive line, and bring the battle and create some kind of a constitutional crisis or political crisis for Putin because they are unable to defend Russia. That would be the aim. But a lot of people say no, this will expand the war and whatnot. But see what they are doing now. They are still doing it anyway, but with much weaker force. The Ukrainian military is now a lot more drained, and logistical problems, manpower problems. So this attack really comes very late. With the Russians now, all the troops are so much more well-trained right now, with total air superiority, massive airstrikes on the daily basis. It's really pretty much a waste. But as I mentioned in the SITREP, which if you didn't watch, you need to watch, because I go a lot of details into the Belgorod offensive. The Ukrainian forces launched an initial attack in the yesterday's report in the area of Velika Pizarivka. This was the first attack. We reported about this, and then in the past 24 hours, the Ukrainian forces continued to attack in the Velika Pizarivka, and then they attacked in the Pobjeda region, as well as in this area, what is it called, Novomykhailivka. So, and then there is another attack coming from the Avdiivka region towards Belgorod along the highway in this direction. And as I mentioned, this area here, the Kreminna region, was actually the site of the previous Ukrainian incursion, and I believe that the Ukrainians are using these precedents as a massive diversionary attempt to draw Russian forces into believing that this is actually the main push, that the Ukrainians are actually very simple-minded, trying to do the same thing over again and hope for a different result. But I believe that this is just a diversion, with the main push actually going straight for Belgorod. And there is also corroborating information, because Ukrainian forces have been consistently getting hit in the Voschansk region, where the Ukrainians was maybe gathering some forces over here. There is also an airstrike reported in the rear position, and also in just south of Zaporizhzhia. So I believe that this should be a two-pronged attack coming through the highway from this direction and through another highway from the other direction in a pincer to capture Belgorod, or at least bring the battle to Belgorod. And then there's reserve forces that will support the attack, and then the diversion attack going in another direction. So this will actually cause the Russians to have to deal with multiple attacks in multiple directions. And so a lot of attention have to be diverted to, instead of trying to defend Belgorod. And if the Russians try to defend only the Belgorod region, the Ukrainians can break out from the side. So that could also work. And but anyway, I don't think the Ukrainians can break through right now. They are dealing with enemy that is way too more powerful than them. So, and this commando raid or special operations trying to infiltrate into the Kherson region has failed for now. So anyway, the fighting is still ongoing. This is a proper offensive. So according to Ryba, they said that the fighting is actually still ongoing. So we shall see how this progress. not sure if how long the Ukrainians can keep up this offensive until they are spent. So let's see. And other than that, the front line, in terms of the front lines, the next attention I would say I would bring you to is actually the Siversk offensive, with the Russian forces continue to be pushing at Belgorod, Bakhmut, Sprony, and Rozhdolivka. So I find this interesting. So we shall wait and see, to see whether this develops into anything. Over at Bakhmut, something interesting is happening also. We have the first report of Heorhiivka fighting for since 19th February. So not sure if this will develop or into something serious. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry also mentioned about the Russians attacking eastern part of Chasiv, so in the east of Chasiv. So the Ukrainians definitely are paying attention to this area here. The fact that they put it in their daily report shows that they are unable to hide the possibility, or maybe this attack is a bit more serious. So I don't expect the Russian forces to capture Ivanivske. I believe they will just hold the line until the situation favors them. For example, the Russian forces pushing south or attacking into Chasiv, forcing Ukrainian forces to need to pay attention back into the defense of Chasiv, then maybe the Russians can push. So yeah, but that's it for this area here. The fighting in New York, I don't think this matters a lot. In the Avdiivka Front, major news is the Russian capture of Nevelske. The Ukrainians have established a strong line right now, for now, over in this Bataichi, Olivka, Tonenke line. So the Russian forces currently are unable to break through. So this corroborates what I've mentioned, that the Russian offensive have kind of choked for now. And the Ukrainian forces are also trying to push back over in the Novomykhailivka region. But interestingly, other than the push in the flanks, the Russians are also pushing in the northern flank, with the first report of fighting towards Kreminna since December. So this is since 3 months ago. So we haven't seen the Russians pushing in this direction for a long time. So this, I find it interesting, with the Ukrainians focusing in the center, the Russians go into the flanks. So we shall see how this progress. Over at the Avdiivka Front, the battle is definitely getting interesting. Over in the Donetsk Front, particularly in the Marinka sector, the Russian forces are trying to push from the north of Heorhiivka, probably trying to avoid fighting in the urban region, because it's much more harder. They haven't been able to do anything about that. The same thing is happening over in the Novomykhailivka region, with the Russian forces also trying to capture the tree line to go to the rear. And if they are successful, then it will become a pincer and an envelopment and encirclement of Novomykhailivka. So let's see how that progresses. Otherwise, very interesting skirmishes around the rest of the Donetsk Front, towards Vodian, towards in the south of Pobjeda, Ukrainians attacking Shevchenko, Russians attacking Staromayoske. Yeah, I just find this very interesting. We will continue to monitor and watch this. And over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, what is significant is that the Russians attacking Shevone. This is actually interesting, and also Russians attacking Kayamske and Lukove. I'm not sure if this will develop into something big. Usually they don't, but we will wait and see. And the Robotine region has become a stalemate. So the Ukrainians are trying to attack Robotine. Russians are attacking it as well, pushing northwest of Verbove. So I don't think this is going to do much. I think this is pretty much a stalemate for now. And I don't really want to talk about Kherson because it's a boring subject. There's nothing really much happening there. So that's it. This is the conclusions. So do press the like button, subscribe, and thank you for watching. So this is the full SITREP for the day of 747 for the 11th of March. And I'll see you guys in the next update.